compare it to what I thought about the game. Makes it more interesting for me. So if you mind, or rather don't mind, taking a moment to go ahead and rate the game, I'd really appreciate it. I was gonna troll and just put all ones, but I didn't troll and put all ones. Alright. Got Nightbot ready. Do I need anything else up? I think we're good. Man, it feels like it's been forever since I've done one of these. Alright, so let's talk about this a little bit. What do you guys say? Spoiler free! Yeah, I think some people alluded to the fact that I was near the end of the game and that I was on the final boss. But other than that, I'd say it wasn't too bad. Okay, music! So, music in this game is not terrible. It's very repetitive. There's nothing inherently special about it. There's some okay upbeat songs and stuff like that, but you hear them for far too long for it to be something you ever want to listen to again. So I can't really say that there's anything I'm gonna take with me in the OST from this game. There's nothing that I'm gonna be like, I can listen to this track at any point in time and love it. Some of the themes were okay though. I have to give it credit where credit's due. If you didn't have to hear them for 80 hours, then they'd be much better. I'm gonna go ahead and give the music a 3. I actually really preferred the music in Yadro Union, which was pretty bad. What would I give Yadro Union? Yeah, there were some pretty good songs in that game overall. Graphics for the era. Okay, so the graphics is a little bit hard. The Digimon look okay. They look pretty good overall. What? Relax, Pistol. So the Digimon didn't look bad. They were kind of like a chibi form of a lot of the Digimon and stuff like that. So until you got to the really late ones, but that's all the game really had going for it. The dungeons looked really insignificant. Obviously, it's a dungeon crawler, so there's not a whole lot going on in them in the first place. But I don't know where the effort was put into in this game. I guess it's an early PlayStation game, but there was a lot of early PlayStation games that were far more fluid than this, looked better, moved better, and everything else. And I'm gonna say that a lot of the effort that they put into the Digimon and the quote-unquote attacks, which looked completely insignificant and very similar all over the place, you were basically shooting projectiles out of your arm with every single attack and like punching them or just like leaning in the general direction that you wanted to do the attack. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that the graphics weren't terrible for a PlayStation game. I've seen worse character models and stuff like that, but there just wasn't a whole lot going on in the game. It was very, very, very insignificant to me. Like, it just, in all truth and honesty, it was just meh at best. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a 3 as well. Story rating. There wasn't much of a story. We got more story at the end than we did anything else. As I tried to explain before, we're basically from the outside world. All of us are from the outside world, and if you've ever watched or played any other type of Digimon game, you kind of know that that's the concept in the first place. But this game played it like it was groundbreaking news that you weren't somehow inside of a computer with digital Digimon and things like that, and then the game references it maybe like 30 or 40 hours in, that you're not from this world, and that there's a world outside of there, and there's a big bad guy, and that's about it. That's the game. You do missions, which is going through similar looking dungeons constantly, fighting similar looking Digimon, then fighting the occasional boss, and then refighting some of the bosses that you already fought. Yeah, the story was basically non-existent until the end of the game, so I'm gonna go ahead and give that a 2. The mechanics in this game. So there were some mechanics I was excited for. I've loved Digimon as a kid, and I was excited to see some of these Digimon and have the opportunity to like fuse them together and make new things and stuff like that. But this game suffers from so much of it just wanting to be a grind fest. So much of it just wanting to introduce this whole like ridiculous amount of extra time into everything. You get Digimon pretty early, but they're very tedious to catch. You have to spend a lot of money and a lot of items on them to catch them. Then it's not always guaranteed that you're going to catch one in the first place. You then have to level them to their max level, in which they do not learn a new ability at that point until you Digivolve them. In fact, sorry, you have to level them to level 11, Digivolve them, then level them 2 more times. And as soon as you get to that point, as soon as you get to the point of, I got something new, let me try this out, the game says no. Digivolve that was something else, DNA Digivolve that was something else, and start all over again. You never really get to feel out your party and experience them. It's just a constant grind fest. The best way that I can explain the mechanics in this game, especially when it comes to the leveling and the Digimon as a whole, which is a huge portion of this game, is, like I've said before, it's like taking half a step forward and 2 steps back the entire game, until finally you get to a point that you're occasionally taking 1 full step forward and not taking multiple steps back. But it never feels like that. It feels like you're absolutely making no progress in the game whatsoever. The dungeons are so similar. You get the same Digimon over and over and over and over again until you finally don't. And even the ones that you can DNA Digivolve to, most of the time there's stuff that you could have already caught. The trading mechanic, whether you had the Digimon to be able to trade them or not, seemed like it might have been a good approach to getting some higher level and stronger Digimon for your team. But whether you were going to have them or not, you never know. You don't know what you're going to need unless you're following a guide. And again, you go back to that tedium of catching Digimon. Everything that could have been fun about this game was hidden behind the barrier. And that's not even talking about the dungeons really yet. So let's talk about that a little bit. The story progression was completely mission-based. You would start a mission, and 2, 3, 4, 1, a new area would pop up on the map, and you would go through it. That was it. There was nothing significant about going through these areas. There was nothing significant about the people that you were fighting, the Digimon that were inside of it, or anything else until much later in the game. Nothing significant goes on at all. It's completely pointless. There's no real reason for you to be doing this type of stuff, and you don't even figure out what you're doing until around the end of the game. You have to revisit areas multiple times. And even then, there is no real, benefit to doing it, other than the fact that it's just more progression. That does not feel like progression. The traps and stuff like that in the game are pretty dumb. You can get stuff to compensate for them later, after you spend a crap ton of money, but all that does is make them visible. Then when they're visible, you have to have pieces of equipment to be able to take care of them. Then you also have to have ammo to be able to use with those pieces of equipment. So the game again takes a mechanic that could have been fun or interesting and turns it on its head and makes it much worse. I really can't say that there's anything I take from this game that I liked, other than the fact that it had Digimon, and I can't give it the fact that it has Digimon in it a high score because of that. Yeah, you've got things like empty chests that have traps on them and things like that, and that's not just something that happens every so often. But the worst feature in this game is the return bug. The fact that it can be hidden even when you have the most upgraded gear on your Beetle at any point in time. They can be hidden. So the game is basically telling you, I want you to search every single spot, which would make things much longer than it already needed to be. But if you don't do that, you're going to get screwed. And even if you have a party of 8 Digimon, and you had 8... Who forms a party of 8 Digimon that are completely interchangeable no matter what? That very rarely happens. You would have a party of Digimon that you would build around particular scenarios. I need more healing here, or things like that. So you would build around that, but you can't do that because of something like the return bug. You basically have to focus on having everything on 3 Digimon at all times, or basically having 8 completely replaceable Digimon, which would have made the game ridiculous. And even then, if you hit multiple return bugs, you're screwed. I would say that if this stuff wasn't completely hidden, and there were easier methods of getting rid of the traps and stuff like that, that system could have been a little bit more fun and less tedious. But I'm going to go ahead and say that I can't really give this anything more than a 1 in my eyes. There is no redeemable qualities in this game for me that I could express to somebody to be like, you have to play this game for this feature. It just doesn't exist for me in this game. And it might only be my opinion. I'm sure there's a lot of people that loved it. I'm sure there's a lot of people that liked seeing what type of DNA evolutions they could get, and what type of stuff they could catch, and they liked forming really strong teams and things like that as well, and they were willing to invest the time into it. And if you're willing to do that, if you're really willing to do that, maybe you'll enjoy this game a little bit more, but it does not separate it from that completely tedious nature that it is. This game completely revolves around making everything take longer than it really needs to. If things would have been sped up a little bit, if things would have been more universal or versatile with your Digimon and you weren't constantly taking steps backwards to do everything, I definitely give it a lot more credit, and I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. Alright, grinding ratings. So, this is probably the most grind-heavy game I've ever played. Every single thing about this game was grinding, and we went over a little bit. Everything about it was grinding. You needed money for everything. You needed grinding to level up. You needed grinding to DNA Digivolve. You needed to grind through the dungeons. You needed to grind RNG. You needed to take forever to beat the bosses. People might say that I was underleveled, which I probably was, but even if I was a higher level by the end of the game, we would have had to add that time it took to grind to those levels. You can't just misplace that in games. That's people's go-to excuse most of the time with an RPG is, well, you're taking so long because you're underleveled. Well, add that time that it would have taken me to grind all those levels, the DNA Digivolve, multiple times to get up to a level where I finally got new abilities and probably stronger stats. And I think we're looking at a longer time than what it took me to beat the bosses in the long run. I could be wrong. The estimate for the game was 67 hours, and I obviously went over it. But I did also lose about 6 hours due to BS and one time not saving. 3 of those hours were definitely due to me not saving at one point. So we would have been around 67 hours as it is. So I'd say we did a pretty good job. I felt like we picked a team that just so happened to work in this game. Lowering defense and having someone that had a decent AoE heal that didn't cost too much. It worked. It was not super effective, but I managed to get through all the bosses because of it. But I feel like I barely played this game half the time. A majority of the time I was watching battles that took ridiculously long, that gave really little experience and money, and did absolutely nothing for me. And then the bosses were very much the same, almost at all times. Maybe one difference in Digimon, or one difference in approach that maybe they demotivate me, or maybe they poison me, or maybe they heal this time. There was one little twist or turn for each one of the fights, and none of them felt worth the effort. Alright, and before I give you guys my final rating for this... Oh yeah, sorry. I'm giving the grinding a 1. I kind of figured that went behind you guys actually needing to know. But anyway, so let me get a calculator out here, guys. Let me do your guys' ratings. Alright, we got 10 ones, plus 25, plus 15, and thank you everybody that rated the game. I appreciate it. Plus 30, plus 14, plus 8. Alright, how many people? Divided by 31. Alright, looks like you guys gave it about a 3.6 overall, so that rounds to 3.5. That's kind of what I expected. I know there's a lot of people in here that liked the game, and there's a lot of people that didn't. And I feel like I said there are some factors that some people probably really enjoyed, but this game is absolutely not for me. If we had a lot of trouble enjoying things about Yadro Union and the fact that I felt like that wasn't even that much of a game, it was more of a cell phone game, and there wasn't a whole lot going on, and it was probably one of the worst explained mechanics and stuff like that, and it did not, it wasn't that difficult either. This game takes the cake with everything. It's very bad at explaining mechanics. It's very bad at letting you do anything at all. And I told you guys that I rate these things very heavily on how much I would recommend it to a person. Yeah, if I was going to be like, hey, you should play Digimon World 2, where would it stack up in my mind with other games? Where would I put it? And I also consider how playable it is and things like that. How much I enjoyed it, aspects I liked about it, and things like that. And I gotta be honest with you guys, and I'm sorry, I really do know that there's a lot of people that love this game to death and love the Digimon games as a whole, but this being my first Digimon game, if I didn't hear what you guys have said about the other games being potentially better and different and things like that, I probably never would have played a Digimon game again if this was my first experience, even though I loved Digimon growing up. See, that's a problem. Saying use speed boost to make the game better. Yes, the game would have been better, but if the game would have been 10 times better being speed boosted, then it should have been faster paced to begin with. And I don't think that that's an acceptable thing to say to somebody, like, you should play this game. It's really good if you play it at 2 times the speed. I don't know. I mean, I know for the JRPG Tour, I'm not doing that type of stuff, but at the same time, I just feel like if you have to say something like that, if you even have to think something like that, that's a problem with recommending a game to people. But anyway, let me catch up on chat. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2. I'm very, very close to giving it a 1, to be completely honest with you. And the music saves it probably more than it should, because the music's not terrible. I have to give it credit there. The graphics aren't very bad either. It had some remnants of a story. Not a story worth 76 hours by anything. Guys, listen, Doc. It's okay, relax. People voted what they voted. I don't care. I just like to get a little bit of a gauge of what everyone's feeling. We had 31 people vote. One person's vote's not going to completely skew the perspective. I prefer people to be honest, but, you know, opinions are completely subjective to people, just like Boom Cannon said. It's fine. I feel like we got a pretty accurate overall opinion. Most of the time when we have these ratings and stuff like that, it's very similar to what I rated. And I can kind of gauge the chat as we're playing through the games as to what people liked it, what people didn't like it, and things like that. And most of the time I come to expect stuff. And to be completely honest with you, seeing as many people give it 1s as they did, I didn't feel the game was quite that bad. I do really feel like a 3.5 is very fair for this game. And I feel like the people that rated it higher like very specific things about it. And that's fine. If you're into that type of stuff and things like that, you'll love games like this. Especially maybe if you're just a dungeon crawler fan, you'll play just about any dungeon crawler. Will I play this game again? Never. You couldn't pay me enough to replay it. Alright, we beat this game on the 20th of March, 2018. It took 76 hours, 58 minutes, and 47 seconds. I feel like a 1 for me is a game that's legitimately unplayable, honestly. I really feel that the game would have to be just devoid of anything playable, broken, glitchy, things like that. If it's not, you're always going to have people that like it. Yeah, guys, you guys are pretty close to the Metacritic score. See? That's pretty average overall. And again, thank you everybody for taking the time to do that. Alright. I really hope we don't get muted for listening to Digimon World 2 music. Alright guys, that means that it is raffle time. Again, if you're not familiar with how this works, all you have to do is type in the word raffle. If you win, you get to pick the next game that I play. There's a giant list of games, so I highly recommend taking a look at the list. Go ahead and have your pick ready. We limit it to, I believe we're saying about 15 minutes for a person to make their pick. It's normally a little bit better if it happens prior to that. It does not take quite as long. But we want to give a little bit of time, too, for people to kind of look at the list, especially if they're caught off guard by winning. But yeah, if you're new to the stream, it's my goal to beat all the JRPGs. There's a giant list of well over 700 games, so if you're here for Digimon, there's other Digimon games. If you're here for JRPGs, there's plenty of JRPGs on the list. So all you have to do is type in that word raffle, and you have just as much of a chance to win as everybody else. Another thing that we are doing currently is if Nightbot manages to win the raffle, I will put 5 games on a list. I will do it very similar to what I did with the straw poll, and you guys will be able to pick amongst yourselves which game I play. Whichever one gets the most votes will play. But it's my little way of putting in 5 games that I'd really like to play, so it's very unlikely that Nightbot wins. I just want you guys to know that that's a possibility that can happen. And I'll let you guys go for about another minute or two. Again, it does not matter how long you've been here, it doesn't matter how much of the game that you just got to see or anything like that. If you're here in chat and you want the chance to pick the next game that I play, You just have to type in that word, Raffle. Doesn't matter if you normally lurk or not, because I've told people I'm quite the lurker myself. I very rarely type in chats, so. Is this your moment, Kevin? Why does Nightbot have more chance than you, Rio? Did you not enter? Is that why? No, you definitely entered. Well, there you go, Seth. Again, take a moment to try and pick. Try and pick what game you want to play. I'll take the time to make this green, I guess, so we can finally say that this game is done. Also, one other thing that I will say is if this game was half the length, maybe a fourth of the length, I would have enjoyed it much more. Because that means they would have increased everything. And the speed to do everything. Alright guys, thank you for sticking around. You know what time it is. Good luck to everyone. Thank you for all the support. Good luck, guys. 3, 2, 1. Overhunter. Have you won before? I can't remember. It doesn't look like it. Congratulations, dude. Congratulations, man. What am I looking for here? Where's the fill? There it is. What are we playing, Overhunter? Xenosaga 1. Alright. That's definitely your pick then? Xenosaga? I think it's just called Xenosaga, right? There's no, like, or is there a title to it? Yeah, it's like a German title or something like that, isn't it? Does anybody know it off the top of their head? No problem, dear. Yeah, it's movie time! I'll just put episode 1 for now. If we need to change it later, we will. And that was picked by Overhunter 1. This is not my first time played, but I never beat it. I only played about 5 hours into the game. I actually stopped watching it, or watching it. I was not trying to be funny there. I stopped playing it because when I was getting home from work, I would only have like an hour or two to play, and I would be spending most of it, oh, thank you, Hope. I'd be spending most of it, watching the game rather than playing it. Oops, why did I delete that? Der will Zermatt. Alright guys, so the next game is Super Robot Tyson OG Saga, Endless Frontier, picked by Shino Do Good, and the next game after that is Xenosaga Episode 1. I'm not trying to say that because Nakuri will make fun of me. Thanks again for sticking around, guys. And one thing that we do here whenever we end a raffle for sure is that we try to have a absolutely fun raid on somebody. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys stick around a little bit longer and help me send a raid to somebody. Just support them a little bit, show them some love, and just kind of show them what the JRPG tour is all about, what all of us are about, what this community is about. So let's try and do that. The question is, though, what are we going to say about Digimon? I missed your question, Zapdos. We have to say something Digimon related. I tried to play that once and I couldn't get into it. Huzzah. Someone got kicked out. What did you say? Fudge. God damn it, Kevin. God damn it, man. Alright, yeah, you can go ahead and ask on Discord. Anyway, What are we saying, guys? We gotta say something funny here. It's finally over. That's a pretty good one. Oh man, this music's so good. It's over, Mon. That's a good one. All right, we'll go with that. Good one. Good one, Desiree. It's over, Mon. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and raid. Looks like background guy. I haven't gotten a chance to raid him in a long time, and he always helps me out a lot. He hosts me all the time. He's an awesome dude. If you don't already follow him, you absolutely should. He does a lot of different speed runs. He's currently doing some Zelda randomizers, which I know are done pretty often on stream, but seriously, he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. He's a really, really nice guy, and you will definitely not want to leave when you stop by. So I'd really appreciate it if everyone just takes a moment to kind of spam "It's over, Mon." All right? I think he'd find it very funny, and it'd be a lot of fun. You can spam his emotes if you have them, or you can spam whatever other emotes you want with it. But either way, I would just really appreciate it. Let it rip, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get this stream ready so I can kind of hear this. Thanks again for sticking around, everybody. It's been a lot of fun tonight. I really appreciate all the support. I can't wait to start another game. We'll likely start tomorrow.